Hello, everybody. Welcome back from spring break. I hope you had a wild and crazy time, and welcome to week 4 of Shelter-in-Place Statistics and Probability. Hopefully, you guys are still doing okay, but please, if you're stuck on anything, shoot me an email. I will answer it if I can. If not, I will set up a time to do a Google Hangouts meet, and we can talk about it screen to screen and help you figure out wherever you're stuck. This video is meant to be a little introduction to homework assignment number 11. I'm obviously not going to do the entire assignment, but I'm going to talk you through the first few steps in case you get stuck on anything, much like I would if we were doing this assignment in class. First of all, you will want a TI-84 or equivalent calculator. If you do not have a TI-84 or equivalent, in the announcement from the week before break, there is a link to where Texas Instruments is giving away free 6-month licenses to their emulator. So if you have a Windows or Apple device, you can download their emulator, which looks like this. Do so. You cannot use Google Sheets or another calculator as easily for this lab because it doesn't have all the same regression features that this lab does. You should be able to use a TI-89, but I don't have a video on that, so it's going to be a little bit more do-it-yourself. First thing to do is go into the window screen and enter the settings. So I'm just going to click over here on window, and I've already done that. Note that the minus sign in your calculator is probably, on your keyboard, is probably the minus sign. That's not going to work. You need the negative sign. So I'm just going to click on that and then type -1, and I can use the down arrow to scroll through all of these to make the settings match what it says on the assignment sheet. Now I'm going to go Stat, Edit, Enter to go into that. I've already entered most of this data, but I've entered the last little bit while you're here watching. I can use the left and right arrows and the up and down arrows on the keyboard to navigate around this screen. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here. I just have a few more data points to enter. The last few items 17, 18, 19, and 20 in list 6. I'm just going to be typing these numbers. That is 13, 10, 6, 3. I'm just going to type them. 13, enter, 10, enter, 6, enter, 3, enter. It's pretty easy to only type the 1 as part of the 10, not both digits or a mistake like that. So double check and make sure you've got all of that data entered. All right, back to this assignment sheet. The next thing it says to do is graph a scatter plot where X is L1 and Y is L2. So let's go do that. I'm going to go into my Y equals screen, make sure everything looks nice and clear. I'm going to hit second Y equals to enter stat plot, enter to go into plot 1, enter to turn it on. Type is scatter, that looks good. This is by default L1 and L2. If it doesn't say L1, I can hit second, the number 1 to make it say L1. Sure, blue. Why not blue? I love blue. Now I'm going to click on graph. Ooh, look at that. It's pretty darn linear, except for this one little bugger of a point out here. Next step, do a linear regression and a median regression. So let's do those two. Stat, calculate, right arrow. Let's start with a linreg, AX plus B. My X list is L1, my Y list is L2. All of that looks good. I'm going to leave frequency list blank. I want to store my regression equation to Y1 so it will graph it for me. Remember where Y1 is. It's a variable, so I'm going to click on vars. It's a Y variable, right arrow. It's a function, enter, and there's Y1. Calculate. Now when I graph again, there's my linreg AX plus B. It looks all right, except all of these points are below the line and all of these points are above the line. This little outlier is really messing with us. All right, let's try the next one on the list, the median. Stat, calculate, excuse me, median. L1, L2, store. And again, if I was doing one of the later regressions, maybe this would need to change to L3. I would do that by clicking here and going up to there and going second L3. In my case, I just want it to stay L2, but for the later regressions, you'll want to change it. I've already got something stored to Y1. Let's store this one to Y2 so that I can compare them. Vars, YVars, function, Y2, calculate. Now, that's different slope, different y-intercept. Let's graph it. There's my first one, my linear. Oh, there's my median. Interesting. Aside from the outlier, the median looks like it fits the data a lot better. This is a different type of linear regression other than our standard, which is called a least squares regression. Median is a linear regression that by definition fits the data less well. It will have a higher sum of the squares of the residuals, but it is less affected by the outlier. So it provides a visually better fit when you have a linear data set with a couple of outliers that are messing with things. So now here I'm going to give a very knee-jerk feeling, my just gut feeling of how well each of these two fit it. I'll put an A and a B somewhere on this line to tell me how well I think each of these two regressions fits, from a perfect fit, which neither is, to a doesn't fit at all, which neither is. I might put my linear regression maybe somewhere here, and my median maybe somewhere here. That's just my gut feeling for those, but you can do it as you see fit. I do think it's pretty clear the median provides a better visual fit to this data set than the least squares, the standard linear regression, does. Moving on to the next step, change the first point from 0, 15 to 0, 0, so it is no longer an outlier. Stat, edit. I'm going to go over here to L2. All right, that's 115. Let's change that to 10. Enter. And now what's the next step it says to do? It said 015. Really, it's 115. I'll change that. Now the next step to do is to rerun the linreg and the mean, and then also quad, cubic, quartic, and power. And notice it's telling us to save these to all these different y equals. Let's jump ahead and do a couple of these others. We'll leave it there. Let's try quadratic and cubic in y3 and y4 and see how those look. So stat, calculate, quadreg, y1, y2. I'm going to store this one to, L1, L2. I'm going to store this one to y3. Vars, y-vars, function, y3, calculate. Take a look at that one. Those are my two originals. Oh, this is a good little note. Let's go into my y equals, delete. I'm just hitting the backspace button on my keyboard. Graph again. Quadratic looks like a pretty darn good fit. All right, let's try the cubic. Stat, calculate. Cubic regression, L1, L2. I'm going to store this one to y4. Vars, y-vars, function, y4. Calculate. Got this one. There's my quadratic. Here comes the cubic. I don't know. Looks about the same. It doesn't look like it's any better of a fit. It's a more complicated equation for sure, but it's not any better of a fit than the quadratic. Look at this first term, 8.7 times 10 to the negative 4, 0.00087. That's pretty darn close to 0. So even though this one's cubic, it's almost quadratic. It doesn't really have much of a first term to speak of. Let's do just one more. Stat, calculate, quartic, 4th degree regression, which is the most this will do. Store this one to y-vars, function, y5. First term is times 10 to the negative 4. Second term is 0.02. Third term, we actually get to the 10th places. It isn't until the 4th term that we get a whole number as part of our regression equation. Let's see how it looks. Quadratic, cubic, not much better. Here comes quartic. I don't know, if anything, worse. It seems to fit the data points a little better through here, but if we assume this data continues on in both directions, quartic is going all wacko at the ends of the graph. So down here, I can put my C, D, and E wherever I think they fit along here for which one fits it better. I think all three of these are pretty darn close to each other. I'm going to put them pretty close to right on top of each other here, which kind of begs the question, why use these more complicated regressions if quadratic fits it just as well? The whole purpose of this is so that you notice that and think about that. See what I did there? Hopefully that's enough of a hint to get you through the rest of this worksheet, but if you get stuck on anything, shoot me an email. At the end, you're going to give a quick sketch of what each of these generally look like. I'm looking for a sketch that took you less than 2 seconds to do. For this one, I'm going to sketch a line. For this one, I'm going to sketch a line, and maybe I'm going to draw a couple little points off to the side to remind me of what an outlier looks like. What does a quadratic, cubic, and quartic look like in general? Some of that's going to come out as you graph these other data sets. You see you're going to do quadratic, cubic, and quartic again for part number 3. Then we'll move on to some of the others. So you'll have a better sense of those as you move on. Best of luck. Ping me if you have any questions.